Last week I did a podcast episode talking about the statistical oddity of the top 10 preseason fantasy running backs based on average draft position. The fact that none of them had missed a game entering week 10 and how unusual, to say the least, that was. In this episode, I want to talk about the repercussions heading into next season for running backs who don't get hurt, who don't miss a game. One of the outcomes of that sometimes is that they get more touches. And I have research, as some of you know, that goes back to the beginning of the NFL of every single running back who's had at least 350 touches in a season and what they've done the following season. The two exceptions are 1981 and 1986 because of strikes, 82, 87, players did not play every game. And so it wouldn't be fair to judge statistical differences in seasons where no one had a chance to play a full season. But in every other season, all the other running backs going over 200 in the history of the NFL, it shows that there is a meaningful statistical decline for running backs following a 350 plus touch season. And those declines get steeper on average the older those running backs are. So if running backs are missing a few games and they get 280 touches, they're not as impacted the next season. But a running back that stays healthy and gets 360 touches is more likely to be impacted. Throughout the history of the NFL, what I've found, and got it here on my spreadsheet, is that the first time a running back had at least 350 plus touches in a season, including the playoffs. Playoffs count because it's still usage. It impacts how running backs perform the next season. The first one was Jim Brown in 1961. He was the only one in the 1960s to have 350 plus touches in a season. Then there were 22 instances in the 1970s as we started to see the development of the bell cow, the Walter Paytons and Franco Harrises and Earl Campbells of the world. 1980s, there were over 50. So we saw that even bigger jump, the Eric Dickersons, and, Marcus Allen, James Wilder, guys like that. And still a little bit of Walter Payton. The 90s was even greater. There you had roughly 60. And so we see this continued growth. And up into 2000, the year 2000, there were 9 instances of a running back getting at least 350 touches in a season. And in 2000, there were 9. And that was the 5th time that had happened in the history of the NFL. But there had never been more than 9. But then starting in 2001, there were 12. Then in 2002, 12 again. 2003, 12 again. We're talking kind of the dawn of this next generation of running backs, the Marshall Faulks and Curtis Martins, Eddie George, of course, LaDainian Tomlinson, Priest Holmes, Sean Alexander, a little bit of Ricky Williams, Stephen Davis. That kind of group really comprised these high volume, frequent, a lot of teams had these guys. That's why if you played fantasy football a little over 20 years ago, you would have seen the first 2 rounds, a lot of people draft running back, because there were so many running backs getting so much volume. Well, that started to decline after that. And in fact, there have been no more than 7 350 plus touch running backs in any season since 2008. And there were no more than 4 since 2013 until last year when there were 5. So last year marked the highest number of 350 plus touch running backs in well over a decade. Interesting. And now we have this year, like I said last week, a lot of healthy, elite, and near elite running backs not missing a game. What's the impact? They're getting a lot more touches. And so right now, Jonathan Taylor is on pace for 372 touches, plus whatever he does in the postseason, assuming they get to the postseason. Christian McCaffrey's on pace for over 400. James Cook is on pace for 348, plus whatever he does in the postseason if they make it. And on down the line. There are realistically 10 running backs who could hit 350 plus touches this season, including the playoffs. A lot of that has to do with the health of these top running backs. And some of it has to do just with the fact that we have a 17 game season, that's instead of 16 game, which has been going on for a few years, but there's the potential for this uptick. We haven't seen it in recent years, but maybe this year that extra game is going to have an impact. And we also have these guys who are, from Jahmyr Gibbs to Travis Etienne. They're bell cows. They're not the sole guys. There's guys who are supporting them. With Travis Etienne, you've got Tutin, the rookie. With Jahmyr Gibbs, you've got David Montgomery, and even with J.K. Dobbins, you have R.J. Harvey. But all three of those guys have the potential, especially if their teams in some cases go deep into the postseason, to get 350 plus touches. It is a really unique situation, and the impact for next year will be significant. If there are 10 guys this year with 350 plus touches versus 5 last year, then there is double the probability of a statistical decline for running backs next season based on high usage. And because the decline runs anywhere from 18% for the youngest running backs, 21 to 23 years old, to over 30% for the much older running backs, it means there are more risky running backs for next season, going into next season. We're not there yet. A lot can happen these next few weeks, but I think it's important to point out that we are in rarefied air right now, at least in the modern NFL over the past 20 years, of having all of these running backs on pace for roughly 350 touches or more, especially for some of these guys if they go deep into the postseason. And the impact for dynasty managers and for those thinking about drafting next year in redraft will be significant. I'm BJ Riddell, Fantasy Football for Winners. Follow me on the blog. Email me anytime. See you tomorrow.